Welcome, everyone, to Workday's webinar. We're excited you're going to be here today. And good morning to those who are on the West Coast and good afternoon to those who are on the East Coast. My name is Corey McLean, and I'll be playing host for today's webinar. Before we begin, just a few quick housekeeping items. All participants have been muted on today's call. So if you do have questions, feel free to submit them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If we have time at the end of our webinar today, we'll get to a few of those questions. Otherwise, Workday will respond to you in 1 to 2 business days with an answer to any questions that you do submit. We're really excited that you're here today. And so with that, kick things off to our main presenter today, Katzen Openshaw. He's a solution consultant for Workday Financials and will be leading today's demo. So with that, Katzen, I turn things over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Corey. And I'd just like to echo your statement. We're really excited for all of the registrants that are here today. I think we've got a really great turnout for this first webinar in the series, and I just really appreciate you being here. So as Corey said, my name is Katzen Openshaw, and I am a financial solution consultant with Workday. I've been in this role at Workday for about 2 years, and before that, my career was dedicated to accounting and finance in the higher education space. And I served pretty much the whole gamut of roles and functions there. And so I'm really thrilled to have the opportunity to join you all today to deliver this presentation on data-driven decisions with Workday Financials for higher education. So I've got just a few slides to start with, and with every presentation, we begin with our safe harbor statement. This is basically just a heads up about any future functionality or forward-looking statements. However, I can tell you that this demonstration is 100% current functionality. It's in our current Workday version, number 31, which was released just this past September. Now first, I'd like to introduce this concept of the power of one. Now, Workday is a single solution across all functional areas sitting on a single code line. And from the start, Workday really reimagined a finance system, a student system, and human capital management system, or HCM in other words, that really puts people at the center of enterprise software. And it's a system that is different at its very core. And it's a difference that we call the power of one. There's one source for data, with all of our users using the exact same source for data from which to plan, execute, and analyze. Collaboration and decision-making is significantly simplified and improved across the organization. There's one security model. All of this data is protected by the same single security model. There's no logging in and out of different apps. And as you make changes in the platform, those changes permeate throughout the system instantly with security and permissions fully intact. And there's one experience for all Workday customers that's easy and really engaging to use. And that really is truly one experience, whether your role is finance or HR or student facing. And it's the same experience across both your desktop on a browser and even on the Workday app on your mobile device. And one community. There really is only one version of Workday that every single customer of ours operates on, which means that there is one Workday community. And the Workday community site is where our customers support each other. It really is a vibrant community where our customers share knowledge, best practices, and even actual templates and solutions that they've created on their own. And it's also where our customers collaborate on innovations and ideas to inform the Workday product roadmap. Now, the underpinning of Workday is that power of one. And this allows us to uniquely support modern institutional operations by facilitating the planning, execution, and analysis cycles all in one system across all functional areas of operations. So now our focus for this demonstration today is going to be on data-driven decisions, right? And we're going to be leveraging Workday's real-time reporting and analytics. So traditional systems suffer from what I kind of like to call a data divide. And that's where transactions are handled in one system and analysis in something completely different, right? And this has two effects. Those effects are unreliable security and stale data. Think about how many times you've heard a statement like, well, we won't have that quarterly data for at least 2 more weeks. Well, with Workday, all activities operate on the same real-time data with the same approach to security. And so we're effectively closing that data divide. So now to address that, let's talk about these few items here below. Dashboards. fresher insights warrant a fresher way to share them. And with Workday, you really can support your up to the minute insights with elegant and customizable dashboards. And we have a broad set of delivered content right out of the box, which speeds up time to value for reporting and analysis, but it's all customizable to the way that you measure the business. And distribution. Now, with traditional systems, many organizations have had to make a choice, and that choice is between shareability and security. Analytics were limited really only to specialists, or they'd risk leaking sensitive information to the wrong people. So let's say, for example, a payroll manager moves to another team. Well, in traditional systems, that payroll manager may still have retained access to that data from their old team. But with Workday, their data access is automatically updated. Our contextual security means that you only see the data that you are entitled to see. So a business analyst or a report creator doesn't have to build separate instances of a report to accommodate each group's data restrictions. Because with reports in Workday, it truly is a write once, distribute securely to everyone model. And getting secure access to personalized insights can be as easy as checking your inbox, both on the web and on mobile. And I would also point out that this security model is, the single security model is pervasive really all throughout Workday, encompassing everything from reporting, analytics, transactions. It covers everything, both on your desktop and on your mobile device. And lastly, collaboration. Now in Workday, as your institution progresses through that plan, execute, and analyze cycle of your business, you can collaborate instantly and secure your work seamlessly through Workday's single security model. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and jump into Workday and get started on the demo. All right, so let's begin with just a little bit of level setting to kind of orient ourselves to some basic navigation within Workday. Here we are, and we're logged in as Matthew Fong, and he serves as sort of a high-level financials role for the institution. And this is the landing page that Matthew sees as he logs in, but I should note that every user, whether they serve in a finance, HCM, or student-facing position, they're going to see a similar version of the landing page, and it's going to be tuned specifically to their role. So for example, let's take a look at the application section here. This is where Matthew can quickly access, the dashboards, tasks, and reports that are relevant to him as a financials user. But also notice that as a people manager, Matthew also has access to some of those HCM related applications, like his team's details and absence requests. So this is really a kind of a one-stop shop for all things Matthew needs to do his job. Now, up at the top left here, if you'll notice our Workday logo, this serves as a home button. So no matter where you're at within the system, you can always click this button to easily return to your landing page at any time. And next to that here, we have an intelligent search bar. So this is where users can sort of easily search keywords to find those tasks and reports, business documents, really anything that they have security access to see. And then down below, notice this announcements section here. This is where you can launch important announcements that can be granular, they can be targeted to specific departments in the institution. And below that, we have a preview of Matthew's inbox. And this is where all things that a user needs to take action on will land. And Matthew can also access his inbox up in the top right corner here. So let's go ahead and expand the inbox and take a look at what's sitting on Matthew's desk. So again, the inbox is where all action items will route to a user that require them to review or take some kind of action on. And this is all driven by Workday's single business process framework. And now these action items are pushed directly to you regardless of what functional area that they originate from. And this is how transactions are generated. So for example, Matthew has a financials inbox here, inbox item here, like this expense report, but he also has an absence request to review. So, Workday really tries hard to make it simple and intuitive to complete actions like these. Now, in addition to the inbox, if you notice up at the top right here, you also, all users will also receive notifications that are pushed to them. So these are sort of, heads up items that you as a user should be aware of, but they don't generate transactions. That's what the inbox is for. So let's go ahead and take a look at the notification that Matthew has here. All right, so Matthew has received a program financial analysis alert, which says, this alert is to notify you of a critical change in educational program net revenue due to rising operational expenses. So it looks like the math program is affected, and the alert is driving Matthew to review his financials dashboard to investigate. So let's go ahead and click our home button here and navigate to the financials dashboard to take a look. All right, so here on this dashboard, Matthew is presented with a handful of reports and analytics to kind of assess the financial picture of the institution. We've got reports related to projects as well as headcount up here. Down below, we've got some reports surrounding expense items and spend, more projects detail. Now, I should note that all of these reports on this dashboard and all reports in general in Workday are updated in real time. Now, of course, you can run snapshot reporting as needed, but you're always equipped with up to the second live data. And I also want to call your attention up to this top right here where you see a little cog icon. All of your dashboards are fully customizable to your liking. So by pressing this little cog icon here, we can decide how we want these dashboards to look, such as the reports that appear. We can add or remove reports as needed. We can change the order of how they appear. You can decide however dashboard works best for you. Okay, so the report which triggered the notification to Matthew was a program financial analysis alert, right? So it's this program, this analytic here. Now, the purpose of this particular report is to assess the net revenue year over year of particular programs of study. And the alert that Matthew received was related to the math program, right? And as we look at this visualization here, we can see that each of these programs is rising over time with the exception of math. And if you look down below, we can also see a red indicator here to kind of call out at a glance that there is an issue, okay? So now Matthew wants to understand why this is happening. So he's going to start his investigation here. And if you notice, all of these balances here are in blue text. And what that means is that they're fully drillable. And that's true to say across all of Workday reports and analytics. And it's all wrapped in Workday's single security model. So you're only able to see what you have access to see. So now if we click on the total amount number for the math program, we can start to drill down and gain insight. Now, of course, you've got your standard sort of chart of account elements such as cost center and fund, but Workday also gives you the ability to drill into dimensions of business insight, into things like procurement item or maybe supplier, right? And so what it's really doing is enabling you to understand the nature of the transactions in any given report. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and drill into this balance by ledger account so we can understand the ins and outs of the number here. All right. So we can see the tuition revenue offset by salary expense. That makes sense, right? Well, let's do a multi-dimensional analysis by adding in the year dimension. Okay. So we're starting to see a little bit of a story developing here, right? Notice that our salary expense increased year over year, and we've even got an indicator here to tell us that this particular balance is below target. So let's go ahead and drop in. Naturally, what Matthew wants to understand next is what kind of salary is driving this increase. So let's drop in a new element, position, and we'll refresh that. Okay, so the story is definitely starting to become a little more clear here, right? We can now see that we have a new adjunct professor expense in the current year, whereas there was not one that existed in the prior year. So we can see the driver now. The story is becoming more clear, but we're not done yet. What if Matthew wants to go even further and learn exactly who is this new professor in the math department? Well, we can further start to dig and slice the data of this report up, and we can pull in the worker element. And now we can see immediately that Tiffany McGowan is the new professor in the math department. Matthew can even navigate directly to her user profile, where he has the ability to view more details about her and even take action all driven by security. Okay, so Matthew wants to kind of understand a little bit more about Tiffany. So let's take a look at her academic tab here and view her appointment history. And oh, okay, so this is interesting. She's actually filled a couple of different roles within the institution, but her appointment ended back in 2011. So she left, but now as of 2018, she's returned. Okay, so that's great. Matthew, at this point, decides he wants to take some action. And what he's going to do is actually go ahead and give her some feedback to welcome her back to the team. So he'll just click on this action button. Notice all the different actions that Matthew has access to take, but he's going to go ahead and give her some feedback. So let's stop and think about for a minute what Matthew just accomplished in just a few moments here. He was alerted to an issue with the math department or math program's operating expenses, which directed him to his financials dashboard. And from that dashboard to a report, he drilled several layers deep to obtain specific transactional detail that made up the issue. And he reached into the underlying HCM profile of the new adjunct professor that was driving that variance. So think about this. Think about where in any traditional financials ERP would you be able to natively analyze payroll costs by job profile? Well, in traditional general ledger systems, they just can't provide that level of insight. If you wanted to analyze payroll expenses by ledger account and further slice and dice that detail by job profiles, you'd basically be out of luck because job profiles are just not a part of the traditional accounting code block. You probably have to contact the HR manager who would then go and extract it from a separate system. Whereas with Workday, it's just native to our architecture. And again, that's really the power of one that Workday enables at its core. So let's talk through another scenario to kind of explore more about how Workday's access to data and insight can drive decisions. And this time we're going to dig into the spending patterns at the institution. So let's go ahead and navigate to Matthew's procurement dashboard. Now here, just like on Matthew's financials dashboard, we've got some analytics relevant to the purchasing activity of the institution. We can see some reports on spend by category, some unmanaged invoice spend analytics, some P-card analysis here. Down below, we've got additional reports, top suppliers by spend, what are the uninvoiced purchase orders that are sitting out there with our suppliers. So, these are all great reports to give Matthew sort of an at-a-glance picture of our spending activity. And again, because these are Workday reports, they are all fully drillable by business dimensions of insight to understand the detail behind the numbers, okay? So all right, Matthew wants to get a handle on some of the rogue spending that has been taking place at the institution. So he's gonna focus his attention on this unmanaged invoice spend analytic. Now, in Workday, unmanaged spend is that which is, it's not following the formal procurement process. In other words, this is spending that isn't initiated with a requisition. There's no PO associated with the invoice, or even that kind of spending which is taking place off contract, where a contract is really the more appropriate route. So Workday identifies this kind of rogue spending for deeper review. So looking at the report here, Matthew begins his analysis. Notice we've got a pretty large balance in gas and electric in unmanaged spend. But okay, that makes sense, right? We probably don't need a formal requisition or a purchase order to make sure that the lights in the campus stay on. But this professional services line catches his eye. Shouldn't this really be the type of spend that we negotiate contracts on? So Matthew's going to dig into this a little bit. Who are the cost centers that are driving this number? We can drill by cost center, kind of see the usual culprits, as it were. But what about the suppliers where this money is going to? Let's go ahead and drop in the supplier element. Okay, so from this perspective, Matthew's eyebrows are starting to raise a little bit, and his attention is drawn to this Carson construction line, right? Shouldn't our primary construction company be the type of supplier that we have negotiated contracts with? Shouldn't we have a contract in place with this firm? What Matthew's going to do is actually navigate directly to the supplier record and check out the details. So here we are in the Carson Construction Supplier Record Overview, and this really is a complete 360-degree view of the details of the supplier, whether that's general overview details, any business documents ever associated with the vendor, like all of our invoices and payments. We really can see all of it in a single place here. So looking at the Contracts tab, okay, Matthew can see that we actually have a supplier contract in place with this, but oh, okay, check out the end date here. This contract is expired. So it really is time that Matthew wants to make the decision to rein in the rogue spending for this particular vendor, and he's going to get his contract manager involved. So if you notice down below, there's an activity stream, and this is sort of a collaboration tool that is prevalent throughout all of Workday, and it allows users to kind of quickly and efficiently begin to work together to get things done. So what Matthew is going to do is he's going to go ahead and ping Dana, his contract manager, and get her involved in this issue. So he's going to tag Dana in a message, let her know to renew negotiations. So now as he posts this message, Dana, having been tagged in it, is going to immediately receive a push notification directly to her mobile device, where she can go ahead and get on the horn and start making negotiations with our construction company. So to kind of round things out, let's take a look at one more dashboard that Matthew references often, because this one is all about budget, which is critical, right, for every institution. So in addition to being responsible for the institution's finances, Matthew is also a finance and administration cost center owner. So he's going to go ahead and navigate to his cost center manager dashboard. So here on this dashboard, we've got some great reports to monitor the budget. We can see a budgetary balance by account analytic. And we see a similar report down below. This is a budgetary balance by cost center, a little bit more granular from the cost center perspective. And we can also see down below any budget amendments that may have taken place, giving us at a glance information of the activity, but again, also with the ability to fully drill into all of the details that make up that activity. So let's take a closer look at this budgetary balance by account worklet. Now, on this particular report, we can see the ledger accounts that make up our budgetary dollars. And we also see, what our original budget was, what is remaining, both in dollars and a percentage. And then over to the right here, we see our commitments following through to our actuals. So Workday actually fully automates the commitment accounting throughout the operations of the institution, whether that's purchasing activity, the hiring of people, travel, pre-authorization. Workday really makes it easy from a commitment standpoint. So for example, as you're going through your procurement process, your requisitions are going to populate in the pre-encumbrance column. And then once those are converted to purchase orders, they're then liquidated from the pre-encumbrance column and move over to encumbrance, right? And then once the purchases are received, the supplier invoices fill in our actuals column. Now, all of this takes place without ever having to think about it. Workday takes care of that budgetary legwork for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at the kind of detail that makes up this report. Maybe Matthew wants to dig into this salaries actual balance, and he wants to understand who are the workers that consist of the salary dollars that are being paid out. We can drop in the worker dimension here. Now, I should point out again that this is all driven by security. Naturally, not everyone will have access to see something as sensitive as salary detail. And when a person does not have access to see something, they just won't even see it as an option to select, really kind of simplifying the security model in that way. So now we know the employees and our actuals, but let's go ahead and dig further and drop in a pay component to gain even more granular detail to the money that we're paying out. So again, another multi-dimensional analysis. And now we're seeing a detailed report of all of the pay components per worker. And we started at a budgetary dashboard, right? So think about the power and the flexibility this could give you as a cost center manager. And again, the access to data in Workday really starts to give you the ability to ask questions. So, for example, Matthew sees this car allowance column here, and he notices that George Lafarge is the only person receiving one. So he's thinking, I thought we stopped giving those out, right? So maybe this could trigger Matthew to decide to tap George's manager on the shoulder and ask some more questions. And I also want to point out up in the top right here that we deliver productivity tools. Now, if you have the security access to do so, you're able to export any report into Excel. And I'm an accountant by heart and soul. I love my workbooks, and Workday understands that. So that option is there. You're also given the ability to go ahead and print out a report directly to a physical printer if needed, or to a PDF, which maybe you want to hand over to an auditor. Some nice tools there to leverage the data within Workday to kind of export it and extract it. So a couple final things I'd like to point out. By now we've really seen how detailed all of Workday reports are. And again, that's that power of one in action, transactions and analysis in a single place. But what that really means from a reporting standpoint is that Workday reports are simply compiling bottom level transaction detail into the format of your report. So what does that mean? What do I mean by that? Well, you can always navigate from a summary report all the way to the actual business document which generated the transaction. So for example, if I were to drill on this supplies actuals balance, I can see the list of supplier invoices that actually make up that detail. And I can go directly to any bottom level document, such as a supplier invoice, go to the document itself. So I'll just go ahead and navigate to the supplier invoice. I can see the details of this particular invoice. And from there, I can even visualize the activity which ties everything together. So by navigating the invoice transaction, we're able to see all of the artifacts, if you will, of the supplier invoice to really get a complete view of all of the activity that took place on the spend. We can see we purchased on contract with the supplier. We can see the operational journal entry that was generated as a result of the invoice. We can even see the individual supplier invoice line items for the goods that were purchased and the payment that went out the door. So in other words, the point of that is to say that in Workday's data model, relationships and connections between your data are managed intelligently and automatically behind the scenes, which really gives you tremendous access to insight to inform your decisions at the institution. So to kind of wrap up, I'd say that by leveraging dashboards and reports and analytics, today Matthew has been able to quickly assess summary information on the financials of the institution, while always retaining that ability to bring to the surface detailed transactional information right from those dashboards and reports. And that's in order to identify issues and ask questions and poke holes, really to make decisions and take action, right? So again, I'd like to reference that notion of the power of one, your transactions and analysis tools, all in the same place, spanning all of the functional operations of the institution, whether that's financial management, student information, and human capital management. Really, Workday really puts the data at your fingertips with incredible flexibility to drill down and analyze and arm yourself with real-time information to support better decisions on the job. So with that, I think we can move right into Q&A. Corey, if you have any questions there that you can throw to me.
Yeah, let's see, Katzen, we're at time today. So any questions that are submitted, we'll go ahead and answer those in a follow-up email in the next day or two. So Katzen, if you can go to the next slide for me.
Sure.
This is just the beginning of our Workday Education and Government focused webinar series that we have. We have upcoming sections on human capital management, cloud security, leveraging Workday's top tier solution security, more financials and more HCM content coming up. If you're curious about registering for these webinars, head to workday.com, and under the events section, all of the registration links will be listed there. With that, thank you very much for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.